Recognise the sink? Won't be that anymore. Yeah, I've decided that's it. I did actually say a few, well, some videos back, I can't remember. I might have said it more than once, or maybe just said it once, I can't remember. But basically I said was, in relation to doing all this stuff about witnessing stuff, if you were in a relationship that never worked out, it might have been abusive, or if you may have been cheated on, or whatever, and then eventually you leave that relationship behind, you crack on with your life, and you get remarried and you have children. Would you, as on a daily or weekly basis, dig out your wedding video and watch the wedding of the marriage that went wrong, or your honeymoon video, or any holidays that you went on with your former partner? Would you do that? No, you wouldn't, because that would just then open up all the wounds that are healed over in relation to the relationship that had gone wrong. And you wouldn't do that. And yet I find myself on a daily basis reminded about being a witness. And now we're cracking on to, in another 7 years, I would have been out of the organisation longer than I was in it. So another 7 years, it'll be 29 years, and I was in it for 28 years. And on a daily basis, because I've got a Twitter account which is like J Discuss or whatever it is, and literally it just comes up boom, 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 because lots of people follow me, so of course I follow them back. And all you get is all their tweets, bam, 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 bam. And a lot of them are about, well, work Lloyd Evans for a kick-off, but a lot of them are about things that are happening in the organisation at the moment. A lot of them go back to people going into JWBD and researching stuff, and from articles from 75 or 68, whatever, this is what we used to believe. And there's lots of different pictures from illustrations from books that I'd forgotten about, and you go, oh my God. And it goes on and on and on. And I'm at the point now that I'm thinking, why am I doing this? Why am I doing it? I've said that the videos were cathartic for me, but I don't think they are. I think the video that probably we all should do is the video we do when we leave. And there's loads of them out there. I've done one, Why I Left Jehovah's Witnesses, where you can just literally offload all the shit that happened to you and put it out there. And that's actually the last one you do. Unless you had a really hard time with the elders about music, and you do another one like I did. But that should be it. Instead, doing these instead of then going back and thinking, right, hold on a second, did I really believe that in the Bible? All of a sudden you go back and think, all of a sudden you go back to biblical things, going, shit, that story is ridiculous. Like, well, for instance, is it what the prophet is at Elisha, and he was travelling in some bit, and all the kids being kids shouted out, going up all you bald head. And that moment 2 she-bears came out and slaughtered, was it 38 kids? And when you're a witness, you find that quite acceptable, because they disrespected Jehovah's prophet. But then, if you think, if that really, really happened, which I don't think it did, you think that is an absolutely over-the-top response to kids being kids. And the Bible is full of examples like that. And I could literally go on doing video after video of another thing in the Bible. I've done a few already which really, really don't make any sense, which makes the God of the Bible out to be a God without mercy and of love, and of being unforgiving and fast to anger, despite him saying he's slow to anger. And I could just go on and do that. And the same things with all the different things that all of a sudden come up on Twitter. With the Lex stupid thing that Tony Morrison said, or Stephen Lex said. I could just do that. And why would I do that? If you think about it, there's lots of us do this. There's like whole channels galore all talking about the same next scandal. within the witnesses. And I've seen a few, and it's the same thing. I'm thinking, why are we doing this? And I just want to give an example now of something that happened in my life. And you have to bear with me on this one because I'm going to a really dark place. Of something that happened in my life, of something that I've never thought of for decades. And I just, when I knew I was going to make this video, I was thinking, is there something I can relate to in the past that I've managed to, something that really damaged me over a long period of time, but I've managed to totally move on with my life and block it out, that now it doesn't become a daily, weekly, monthly, yearly, or a decade, decadally, such words, that comes up, that I recall these events. But I'll just explain them to you so you can understand the similarities between the two. It relates to being at school, and a lot of people say being at school was the happiest time in their life, and a lot of people say it was the worst. Sadly, my infant and junior school were some of the best times I've ever had. It all went horribly wrong when I went to the bigger school when I turned 11. Instead of going to the grammar school, which was literally on my road, at the top of my road in Overpool Road in Ellesmere Port, I was deemed not clever enough to go to it. I was a case where it got referred to somebody else to see the work that I'd done in my last year at junior, but I forgot what it's called now. And they decided, no, I needed to go to this comprehensive called the Grange Comprehensive in Ellesmere Port, which was a 45-minute walk away. It was the other side, it was literally the other side of town. And there were buses, but you didn't get free. You didn't get a special pass to get on the bus. You only had to pay for your bus fare. There wasn't a free bus for the two boys. Unfortunately, in my junior school, only three pupils that I knew went to the Grange. All the rest of them went to the grammar school or to a place called Mill Lane. I went to the Grange, and there was one guy called Graham Blanksby, I think his name was. He went there and he realised, he must have gone back to his mum and said, there's no way I can stay in the school. And they complained that he should have been in the grammar school. And I think he got moved on to the grammar school. They re-looked at it. But sadly, around about that time, that's happened in my life, is that my mother and father's marriage fell to pieces and he moved out. So nobody's head was in the game in relation to me being in this school, which ended up being an absolute nightmare. Basically, the school I went to, I had a geography teacher called Mr. Burgess. And he was only a geography teacher because he went to a lot of places in the world, unlike other people, He was actually a mountain climber. He had a twin brother, and he actually featured on a Channel 4 programme in Christmas 1980, but sadly I was in Ian Gill's caravan in air at the time, and basically, can we watch this programme about my former geography teacher? That never happened. And of course, that was days before you ring up and say, Mum, can you videotape Mr. Burgess's climbing Everest disaster? Of course, we didn't have videos. In fact, I don't think we had a telly at the time in our old house because we couldn't afford the TV licence. So it just, I think, sat there unable to watch it day after day. And what happened was Mr. Burgess did this book called The Burgess Book of Lies, which I've read decades later, and he referred to my school and the pupils in it, and basically referred to it like, it's a working class town, and that basically all the idiots and they went to the Grange Comprehensive. He referred to it like being a borstal, and he wasn't too far from the truth. The school I went to was all boys. It was all boys. Adjoining the school was the girls' school. So literally, the boys and the girls event. I spent all my life in classes with boys and girls. All of a sudden, I was thrust into this school where it was all boys. And unfortunately, if it's all boys, that means, of course, that all boys don't need to have to behave to impress the girls, because there were no girls to impress. So you can guess what happened. So basically, that gave people who wanted to bully other people, just free rein to do what they like, because they wouldn't get like girls saying, "Oh, I don't like you anymore because you've been bullying this guy." Of course, I go to the Grange school. And this is 1973. This was the time of glam rock, the Sweet, Slade, the glitter band, Gary Glitter, can we still say his name anymore? And everybody's grown their hair, but I was a Jehovah's Witness, so of course I went to school with short hair. And not only was my hair short, but also my height was short. I'm not a giant now, obviously, but needless to say, that spurt of growth that you do go through when you're at school, which goes girls first, then boys later, it never happened. I was literally a late developer, and I stayed, I think, the second smallest pupil in my year. In every year I went up first, second, all the way to fifth. I was still the second smallest. There was a guy totally than me, really, really small, like hobbity small, but I was just small. And of course I had short hair. And then going back to glam rock. Glam rock used to have things back in the days, nobody believe this nonsense, but literally you had something called platform shoes. Now platform shoes would be a shoe which you ever see, like, you know, some of these people, you know, wearing them back in the day. They look, literally your heel can be as big as that. It's like as big as a phone, I kid you not. And all of a sudden all the boys in my school started wearing platform shoes. And because we were quite poor, because my father had buggered off and was just giving us, you know, very little money at the time, as a result, what happened was that I was still wearing flatties, or winkle pickers as we call them. That's like a shoe with a sort of pointy bit, and it's called a winkle picker. So not only was I already, you know, small, I looked even smaller because everybody else in my year, all the guys in my year, were wearing platform shoes, and their hair was longer. And of course I didn't swear like them because I was a good Jehovah's Witness boy, and of course I never spoke like them because when I went home, my mum says we don't speak Scouse in this house, so people in my year were alright there, great, and I never spoke like that. You see, I spoke proper good English. So as a result, I didn't look right, I didn't sound right. I, of course, never went into the assemblies in the morning, so that stood me out. You know, at a time when you want to really fit in a brand new school with a bunch of guys you don't know, to actually stand out from the crowd was not a good thing if you don't want to be at the end of some terrible bullying. And to describe how I even looked even more ridiculously different is because back in the day, to save money, there was this phrase. Thank God that phrase has been destroyed from children's upbringing forever, I hope. And it's called, he'll grow into it. So some of you might go, what the fuck are you on about? Well, basically, it's quite simple. Is to make clothes last longer than they should do, you bought them too big. So I've got to take some, I've got a bit of a cold, so I'm taking some paracetamol. Hold on a second. Oh, let me take some water. Oh, God. Oh, don't worry, I swallowed it. Oh, God. They're stuck somewhere. There's this phrase that it's called, you grow into it. So basically, my mum took me down to the local market, and first off, it was a bad mistake because she bought me a parka, and by this time there was a new coat on the horizon which all the lads started to wear, called the snorkel. And the snorkel had a hood that went up, and then sort of bit that came out, it looked like a snorkel, and it was all warm inside, and you put it up in your snorkel, and it was supposed to keep your ears warm and whatever. It was a few years before I got a snorkel. By that time, snorkels were out. So anyway, I'm getting my parka, and the next thing is my mum says, we want a parka he'll grow into. I can't believe this existed as a concept, but it did, because literally in the junior school, she always bought me jumpers, which I used to fold the sleeves back. In fact, that's probably why, it probably explains why I don't like wearing anything. You know, it all goes back to this sort of childhood trauma of wearing jumpers which were too big for me. So I fold them back and fold them twice, because my mum used to buy me jumpers which were too big, so I'd grow into them. You know, the folly behind this is because, of course, in the big school, in the comprehensive, I never grew at all, so it was completely stupid. You should have just bought me something that fitted me at the time, because I never really grew in the 5 years I was there. So she bought us this parka that I'd grow into. So it was massively too big, and I couldn't even see my hands. I'd demonstrate it, but if you've ever seen David Byrne in the Stop Making Sense video, where he's wearing a massive, great big coat which is too big for him, it was like that. It was like massively too big, and the sleeves came over. So that I could see my own hand, I had to fold this sort of parka, it was quite thick, once and twice. It looked ridiculous, but I thought, because I've been used to wearing clothes too big for me and folding the jumpers back. I just thought, well, I just accepted it as normal, bizarre. And I actually lost the jacket with, I think, the first 2 weeks of being at the school. And my mum said, you better find that jacket. And I said, I don't know where I've left it. She says, did you, I think back in those days, I used to, if I had a bit of money, I'd try and afford to get the bus back. I said, I think I've left it on the bus. And so she rang up Crosville, I think it was called Crosville Motors. They hadn't, nobody handed it in. And she said, why don't you see if they've handed it in lost property in school, maybe left it there. And sure enough, I'd left it in the changing room when we went to the gym, which going into the gym just brings back all terrible memories. And especially the changing room. And I won't go there. So anyway, I went to the teacher, says, somebody handed in my parka. And just in case it was just some poor guy's attempt to try and blag other people's coats, he said, can you describe it to me? And I went, well, the sleeves are folded, and he went, folded back twice. He says, yeah, we've got it in here. So, yeah, he knew it. He probably looked and says, what poor sod's walking around with a parka with the sleeves fold back twice? But it was me. And basically, my mother was a good sewer and knitter. And nowadays, if you get a hole in your sock, you do something called throw it away, or you put it in a bag to bags for school where that material get recycled. But no, back in 1973, 74, 75, my mother used to darn our socks. So you're probably thinking, what does that mean? Well, basically, she used to get our sock, she used to put something at the top of it, and then she used to find some thread which looked similar to the colour of the sock, and then do it. Quite often it was probably a grey sock, but next thing the thread was grey, or it was a grey sock and the thread was black. So you could just see tons of darn. So these socks would last a lifetime, or well, a whole year at school. So it was ridiculous. I'm wearing socks where it's eventually by about 2 years on, because my feet haven't got any bigger. It was more darn than an actual sock. And then to make matters worse, we used to have these, and this happened to my brother as well. So basically, because we were so poor, we used to get I remember we had to apply for free school dinners. And we weren't the only ones, but it was awful. There was a lot of poor families in my school. But then you had to go up on a Monday morning and go to the special class to go up to get your free tokens for your free school meals. And then some of these boys then sold the free school meals to other boys so that they have enough money to go and buy cigarettes, and then you wouldn't eat dinner. My God. Anyway, that's another, it's like kind of Oliver Twist, this story. So basically, more please. And so the next thing is, as lads do, we used to play football, and both me and my brother ended up with holes in our knees. Now these days, once you start getting a wee hole in your trousers, any sort of hole at all, any sort of thread that's been, slightly off, well, you know what you do. You convert them to work trousers, painting them like I do, or gardening them like I do, or you just put them in bags to school or throw them away. But no. We couldn't afford to buy new trousers. So what my mother's brilliant idea was, you'd get another pair of pants which had been discarded, which was completely different colour and not anywhere similar to the trousers we're wearing. So like we're wearing, I think, maybe 2 grey pair of pants. Well, sorry, just to explain, in England a pair of pants are the things you wear in your legs, and in Scotland a pair of pants is what you wear under your trousers. So I'm referring to pants that you wear for trousers, not underpants. That's why they're called underpants, because they're under your pants. So sorry, anybody from Scotland, I'm not talking about boxers, I'm talking about pants. So basically, me and my brother, who went bizarrely, he actually went to the grammar school, not because he was smarter than me, because by the time he was 2 years younger than me, by the time it was his turn to go, he got converted to comprehensive. So he was actually travelling 5 minutes up the road, went to different school to me, and I went to the one 45 minutes ago. And the problem with one going to the one 45 minutes ago is that when I walked to school, I had to walk along with the other school kids going to the grammar school, turn left, and they started along Whitby Road, and there were other kids coming to the grammar school. And then I started getting the kids that were going to the Catholic school called the Our Ladies. So I had to walk past 2 other schools' pupils before getting anywhere near my own school. The problem was that is because of the way I was dressed, with my parka with the folded back sleeves, my darn socks, and my trousers, which my mum had taken other people's trousers when there was a hole in my knee to make them last longer. actually cut patches, maybe about as, you know, imagine the hole's this big. She cuts a patch like this from the other trouser. It's a completely different colour, and instead of sort of trying her best to put it inside the trouser leg, so all you could see is this wee hole with a wee slightly different colour, my mum got hold of the patch and put it on the front of the trouser leg, covering the knee. So literally we looked like tramps, and that happened to my brother and happened to me. You know, it's just absolutely incredible. So that's what we did. You know, we just looked. You know, if you're a bully and you're looking for somebody to bully, I may as well just had literally something on the back of my coat, on my parka, saying, instead of saying hate like Ian Curtis had, I should have just said bully me. Bullies are here, and it was incessant. It just went on and on and on, and I hated going to classes. If the teacher wasn't in, and next thing, all the boys, if the teacher wasn't in time because he was coming from another class or whatever, maybe he was having a fag, and we had to wait outside, I knew there was going to be trouble, because the next thing is, right, bully boys thought, right, what should we do? Oh, let's pick on the wee guy, me, with his mad parker and the patches on his trousers and his darn socks and his short haircut and the fact that he isn't wearing platform shoes. And there was one time there was a light switch had been detached in this corridor, and the bare wires were there, and these two guys, a guy called Christopher Endicott and this other guy called Pierce, and I can't remember his first name, it might have been Mark. Basically they just literally physically pushed me to this thing, pulled up my hand, a bit stupid, but at the end of the day, I think they're holding my flesh, but basically they put my fingers into this and I got my first electrical shock. I've had a few since then, obviously. And I, of course, then complained to my mum and said, Mum, you know, these two boys bullied me at school and gave me electrical shock. And of course she went ballistic and she complained, she phoned up my dad. And my dad then went to the school, you know, wasn't living with us, and said, you've got to do something about this, you know, my son's got electrocuted, it's ridiculous, and cover that up. So one day we're in class, and the teacher says, next thing we get this, next thing somebody comes to the door and said, Pierce Eccleston, Sir Endicott, Pierce Endicott, me out, went to see the headmaster, and he says, did this happen? And they go, oh, we didn't mean it. And next thing is you just saw these fake, they weren't even tears, it was just like, it was just awful. It's just pretending, both of them pretending to kind of sitting there going, we didn't mean to do it, no. You just saying they never did it. I'm going, did they do it? I'm going, and I'd had to go, yes, I think they did it. You know, it's just pathetic, because I felt, you know, all of a sudden I'm there with the two people I've accused of electrocuting me. Anyhow, that finished, don't let that happen again. Okay, we got out of the class, and Christopher Endicott went up to me and put his head all the way back, and you know what's coming next, and he head-butted me right in the face and says, don't ever snitch on me again. And I learnt a valuable lesson there. There's no point going home and telling your mum if you get bullied, because it ends up being further bullied. And Endicott bullied me, you know, just for, you know, different years. And then we got moved into different classes, which I wasn't him. He sort of, I got, as you got, you know, the brighter kids sort of got moved into different English classes, and Endicott, who was not the brightest tool in the box, sort of dropped down, because obviously at that time I realised he was an absolute arsehole. And the next thing is I was in an art class, and the art class didn't, you know, basically the art class that we went to was full of, you know, it doesn't matter whether you're good at art or not, you're just there, unlike maths and English where there was different classes of smart and thick people. And I went to the art class, and there was a guy I never had any problems with at all, a guy called Graham McNaughton, and he was sitting near me, and we were doing some painting, and he said to me, I don't know what, somehow some of my paint had got on a piece of his clothes, and he said, right, well, we've got to deal with this then. I said, what do you mean? He says, well, afterwards, sorry, he says, you've put paint on my clothes, I've got to deal with this. And I was going, I just thought, what does he mean? So when class finished, it was lunchtime next, and next thing is he says, right, you've got to come with me. And basically he took my arm and led me into a quieter area of the playground, called over to his chums, and two of his chums held one arm here, another arm here. And this Graham McNaughton deliberately, and over a period of time, repeatedly punched me in the face. Literally didn't lose, it was literally calm, cool and collective, just one punch, then another punch, and he just repeatedly punched me. And when I went back to, when I went back home that night and told my mum, I says, well, I never told my mum. My mum saw my face and knew that I'd obviously got a good hiding that day. And she then, I says, don't report at school, because if you say I've said this, remember what Christopher Endicott did me, says I'll end up with a bigger beating. And a few days later, I was at school, next thing, Craig McNaughton come up to me and said, he says, oh, somebody must have caught us. As though somehow I was involved in the sort of acceptable beating up of my own face. And you know, yeah, somebody caught us. One of the teachers must have seen us. I don't know whatever happened to him, but I tell you what, he never ever got put on detention, or he never got booted out the school for a week or whatever. Nothing happened to that guy. And when it came to, I think, the final year in my school, then the bullying used to happen, especially when I was leaving school. Every time I left school, there was this guy called Neil. I don't know his surname, but well, let's call him Neil Arsehole. And this guy, for some reason, the same thing. It was just like going home from school. Sadly, I had to walk the same way as him. And I had my snorkel up, and he thought it was really funny to run full pelt and literally push me, so I'd literally fall straight into the ground and laugh at it, and his mates think it was really funny. Yeah, and he did every night I left from school. This went on and on. Some nights I went out, looked around, he's not there, brilliant. Walked along, the next thing out of the blue, boom, I'm falling on the floor. Or he used to come out and I could see him, and I used to start trying to walk faster, and then he started running after me. And what he used to do is he used to get, I used to have a haversack on my back, which had all my school books in it, and my lunch box, because this time I was taking my own lunch. And I made me my sports gear, and he used to grip hold of my haversack, and he used to swing me around like this, swing me around, circle, and let go, of course, and I'd go flying across the field, burst out laughing, thought it was hilarious. And then he used to just sometimes just go straight in the back of the haversack, and he used to get hold of one of, we called them pumps back in those days, but we call them trainers today, but back in those days your gym shoes were called pumps, don't ask me why. And he used to get hold of one of my pumps and literally throw it over there, throw another one over there, and this just went on and on and on. It was just awful. It was terrible, and the bullying never stopped. It's one of the worst periods of my life. And the moment I left school was it was literally being released from a prison sentence. I couldn't wait to get out of that school. And when I think about the things what I learned at that school, trigonometry, did I've applied that again? No, you know, I'm still a crap speller. I still don't pronounce words right. What did I benefit from getting that school? I don't really know. I should have just stayed at home. But that experience is not something I think about at all. In fact, just thinking about it now, I haven't thought about that for a long, long time. Literally years. Because I don't want to go back to that place. That's literally, those events occurred between 45 and 50 years ago. Yeah, 45, 50 years ago. And I don't want to go back there ever again. How would it make sense knowing that would happen? Because literally I'd love to be able to put my arms round that wee guy and just say, it'll be alright, you'll forget this in time, and you'll make something of your life. And how would it be now if I joined a load of social media sites in relation to that school, which actually bizarrely they knocked down, they flattened it and rebuilt a college. That was after first my cousin Carl, who also had a bad time at school, tried to burn it down, but that's another story. And how would it be if I joined a lot of sites like Twitter accounts relating to the Grange Comprehensive? Or people who got bullied by individuals, maybe the year below me or the years above me, and have that coming into my feed. I'd literally be reopening a wound that I literally healed over a long time ago. If I then went on to media sites that reference teachers, classrooms, events, pupils, it would all come back. Imagine having that as a daily reminder through social media of what happened in that school. You know, it set me back years, and I'd really struggle with it. As it is, I don't anymore, because I never ever think about it. I don't even see the Grange, because I'm in Scotland, and that's in L14. And when I go back there, I don't even think it's the same place, because it's a brand new college, a new building. Everything's gone from it. And this is the same, I think, with spending so much time. If you're an ex-Jehovah's Witness, and especially if you had it wasn't all rubbish with witnesses, but a lot of it was miserable. A lot of us have a lot of baggage with that cult, or any cult. Why would we, on a daily basis, want to remind ourselves of what we used to believe, or the new people who are now in charge and what they now believe, and keep on thinking back to, when you used to believe that the God of the Bible was a good guy, and that it was all right to have a couple of bears slaughter a bunch of children? Why would I do that on a daily basis, or weekly basis, or monthly basis? It doesn't make any sense. And literally, that's where I am. Literally, for all the videos that I've done relating to Jehovah's Witnesses, I think the only time I've had any sort of enjoyment doing them, more than anything, because at the end I become utterly exasperated, is when I've done the Lloyd Evans stuff, because Lloyd Evans provided a welcome distraction from all things witnessy, where the things he was coming out with it just appealed to my sense of humour, because it was just so comedic, just such a lot of material there. But with Jehovah's Witnesses, I just don't find anything to laugh about. It gets me so riled up that when I see things, I literally want to find the nearest Jehovah's Witness and just give them both barrels, and literally want to just task them with some shit that I've just seen come out from the governing body or whatever. And thinking all the times I've spoken to the Carters, I think I've never made an impact speaking to them. I think I've vented on them. I don't think I've put a seed in their mind that they thought, oh, you know what, see that guy spoke today, I think I'm going to do some research there. I think they view me like I used to view other apostates, thinking, oh, can't talk to them. Or I think I'm viewed as a bitter and twisted, person who wasn't good enough for that religion, and so I've got so much anger and that I wasn't good enough to make the grade. I'm taking it out, and I think that's how I'll come across. Certainly when I speak to Carters, I don't feel any better after the event. I don't think, oh, that was good, because at the end of the day I still come away thinking I made no impression, and now I feel shit. And the thing with Lloyd Evans is, he should count himself as the luckiest man alive. He can still carry on. In fact, he's prolonged the whole Lloyd Evans saga. If he'd just taken it on the two chins, and not bothered to go down to this ridiculous litigation against me and 11 others, and then decided, let them have their time, it will all burn out, no point putting more fuel on the fire, I'll just carry on. He's still got a hardcore fan base of 4,000 people who pay him every month. He's still got thousands of people watch his YouTube videos. He should count himself as the luckiest person alive. And he will never ever be brought down. He never will, unless some of the rumours ever are found out to be true. But as yet, I don't even know they are. He'll never be brought down. So all the people have talked about it, including me, have been bordering on obsession and obsessed, and with all the Manson girls, etc. It's just, why am I doing that? Why am I doing that? because it won't make any difference to people like the Manson girls. And again, this thing about doing the videos, which I do, and let's think about people like Lloyd and other people now who immerse themselves as a profession in XJW stuff, in Jehovah's Witness stuff. They watch all the material, all the dramas, all the songs, all the JW broadcasts, the whole thing. The whole thing. It's not a good place to be. Maybe that explains why Lloyd Evans went bonkers. I don't know. I don't think it's healthy. I don't think it's healthy for them to spend all that time doing that, for us to watch them doing it. I don't think it's a great place to be. I think, honestly, I don't think this whole XJW thing is good. For instance, I took myself out of all the XJW Facebook sites because it was just so much notification, so and so, and I'd end up then incessantly arguing with people on Facebook about the merits of still believing that the Bible is good and God is good, or that Lloyd Evans is an all-round general guy. And I remember the last few weeks of my son being here, not realising that he wouldn't be coming back and I might not see him for several years. Instead of me actually spending some more quality time with him, just saying, I tell you what, let's watch a couple of films you've never seen before, I know you'll love them. Or saying, let's listen to some music you never heard before and you can put them onto your iPod. I've got 23,000 songs you should listen to. Instead of doing that, I'm actually on the internet, on my laptop or my phone, or online arguing with people, you know, wasting my precious time that I've got arguing with people about Lloyd Evans, about Jehovah's Witnesses, and about whether the Bible's right or not. It's just bonkers why I do that. And that's because I literally hadn't let go. And it's been detrimental to me because the time I've spent doing these witnessing things and Lloyd things and on social media should have been spent in a more productive way. It should have been, you know, when even if it's trying to deal with what happened as being a witness, I could have turned that into more artistic, done it in a more artistic environment where I could have then gone on and written songs or whatever it is, because some people's best work is when they're trying to deal with things that have happened in their past. Some of the best songs, poems, books, paintings, what have you, are dealing with things that maybe happened to you in your past, or that somebody else that you've seen and say, you know, this is affecting me, I want to write about that. And so it's not as though you're just completely, you know, it's things are always going to be there, but I could have turned the things that have happened to me, and I've done a lot of songs about it, and I should have just spent more time trying to write songs, not about that, but about anything at all. It's literally a year since I last recorded a song, a whole year. Instead, I've been thinking, oh no, I must put a new, I must do a video and respond. I'm on holiday, I'm doing a video live stream responding to some shit that Lloyd's come on with. What am I doing? But that's where it becomes so obsessive. I just don't think it's good for any of us. I really don't. The same thing with my school. Why go back to something you've left behind, that you've moved on with your life? Why keep on dipping your toe back into that former life? And I know for some people, it's really difficult for them because of, you know, still being shunned in the family or whatever. But to keep on going back, to just reaffirm to yourself that you made the right choice. At the end of the day, is I left the witnesses, and there was no videos, no YouTube, no Twitter, none of this shit. I just knew it couldn't be the truth, purely because of the way they kept on changing their explanation of scripture. And I knew this cannot be God's organisation. And then, of course, once I questioned that, I then questioned the validity of the Bible being God's word. And then I just thought, this is complete bollocks. I didn't need anybody to tell me that. It was only when I read the Christ as a Conscience book, as I said many times before, that all of a sudden it made sense why there was all this changing in doctrine, because it was whoever the next president was, decided, well, this is my belief and I'm going to sort of now put that in. I will dismiss the teachings of the previous president and the previous president. And now I think it comes down to the governing body. It's more who the most influential governing body member decides which way the organisation goes now. So I need to get out with this. I told my wife last night, it was her birthday, and I went out for a meal. I said, I'm not doing any more Jehovah's Witness things. And she said, I've been telling you this for years, and she has. Because I think it is a bad use of my time, and it's a bad use of swirling around in my head. It's nothing. I really want to be able to walk past the Carters and actually just miss them, or just view them as like a bunch of Tories, or Labour or whatever it is, or whoever it is, and just say, oh, what waste of time, but not have to feel the need to then go up to them and speak to them. I just want to view them like I view other people who do that sort of street work. If they come to my door, that's obviously a different matter, but I don't want to ever go to approach them ever again. I don't want to do any more videos about Jehovah's Witnesses ever again. I don't want to ever go back to that time. Life's too short. I've turned 60. I've got maybe another good 10 years of, still feeling fairly active. And I want to use that time, but, to actually be more, I don't know, to be in a better place and to be doing things which are more positive and have a more positive energy. Everything relating to the witness is just like literally the dark side of the force for me. As you know, I've got my own Facebook page I'm trying to promote, called Scotland Beautiful and Historic. I want to do more to do that. I want to do videos when I go out and visit these places and set up a YouTube channel. I've already decided, when I thought about the fact that I never ever told Benjamin all the great songs to listen to, I'm going to spend more time doing videos on a video channel that I've set up, which I've only got live videos of concerts at the moment, and a hedgehog. But I'm going to be doing videos up there, basically talking about songs that have influenced me. And because I know in years to come, hopefully Benjamin will have children, my grandchildren, and maybe one day they'll say to him, "Oh, Dad, why do you like this song so much?" And he says, this is a song that me and your granddad, we went to see this band, or that he got me into it." And they'd say, "Did he get to see them, Granddad? Did he get to see New Order? Did he get to see Joy Division?" No, he didn't. But he only in Curtis's kitchen table. And then, at the end of the day, he says, he says, "Oh, your granddad had a story about that, and I can't remember what it is." So basically what I want to try and do is just try and put on this channel lots of different anecdotes that I have to people I've met, and it will relate to the time period I was a Jehovah's Witness, so that will obviously come into it, but I'm not going to talk about the beliefs, just saying that when I was a Jehovah's Witness, me and this other guy, and I'm going to relate to different songs to that. So I want to start building, doing this sort of thing that I do in relation to talking about things that have made me happy, which has been music or Scottish history. I don't want to ever talk about witnesses again. I'm going to not follow anybody on Twitter who is a Jehovah's Witness related. Ex-witness. I'm going to change the name of the account. I've just got to get away from this because it's not a good place to be. And I understand why people do it. I understand because I've been doing it. I understand why people watch it because I've been watching it. But I think there's some point in life you've got to say, what benefit is this for me to either produce content or to watch content? And I'm at that point now. There's no benefit at all. It's not good for me. So I'm going to finish on a song. I'm going to finish on a song. See, this is one of the positives in this. There was a song I started a long time ago in relation to ending association with toxic people, where you just realise, you know what, life's too short to be spent in the company of people who are bringing you down all the time. And as you know, with Jehovah's Witnesses, being in that organisation, you always fail to, you're always told that you are imperfect, you don't live up to the mark, you're always reminded you could do more. But this wasn't in particular in relation to Jehovah's Witnesses, actually just other people. But now I've just thought, you know what, this probably is better suited to moving on with your life if you have been a Jehovah's Witness and you've had a lot of baggage and you have a lot of wounds, and it's called there's a saying called let sleeping dogs lie, but I've changed it to let sleeping dogs sleep, because I think it makes more lyrical sense in the song. But anyway, I'm going to do this live. Well, my voice is a bit bugged because I've been talking for such a long time, so I don't know how this is going to go. Literally, I've run through it once because I just did the lyrics during my lunchtime. During lunch break, I did the lyrics. Well, finished them off, because some are from the last time I wrote this. But anyway, so this is called Let Sleeping Dogs Sleep. And I'd just like to thank everybody who has in the past said that they've enjoyed my content and they've enjoyed watching my videos and they've enjoyed my humour and they've enjoyed my sort of chatting here in the kitchen or in the summer house or in my old house in the lounge. And yeah, it's been nice, but I need to move on. But you can still see me doing this sort of thing on the music channel, which I'll give a link in the description. I haven't done a video yet, but I'm going to do it because I just want to keep on, you know, I would rather talk about music. But thank you everybody. So this song is basically dedicated to all of us, and especially everybody who's you know, sort of said really positive things to me in the past, and I really appreciate it. And so this is it. This is the last thing I'll ever do on this channel. It's this song, Let Sleeping Dogs Sleep. At some point in life, you just have to admit that you've given your best, but this now is it. The baggage you've held for all of these years, you just need to let go, then replace those tears. Let sleeping dogs sleep. You know who you are. The past is the past. You've traveled this far. Let sleeping dogs sleep. Those wounds have to heal. The scars will then fade as you learn how to feel. The time you have left, stay looking ahead. Don't live in the past, consumed with regret. You have to let go the life you once lived. Bridges let burn, then embrace the gift. Let sleeping dogs sleep. You know who you scars will then fade as you learn how to feel. Let sleeping dogs sleep. 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 The time you've left. Let sleeping dogs sleep. Stay looking ahead. Let sleeping dogs sleep. Don't live in the past. Till sleeping dogs sleep. Consume regret. Let sleeping dogs sleep. You must let go. Let sleeping dogs sleep. The life you lived. Let sleeping dogs sleep. Let the bridges just burn. Let sleeping dogs sleep. Then embrace the gift of life.